Max, how are you? Long time no see.
How are you?
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
How's the show going for you?
It's we probably had the busiest day at the show yesterday and the busiest moment of the show when we did the Houlihan Award handoff, the Carlson Houlihan Award. My dad passed that on last night, so that was kind of a cool moment in the booth. But yeah, let me give you a tour of.
Yeah, it's a really nice booth. You've got a lot of great equipment set up here. You got a lot of team members here. It looks really cool.
So one of the things that we're proud of this particular show is we won the award for the plumbing category in the AHR Innovation Awards last night. So we got to take a photo with the president-elect of ASHRAE last night, and it was kind of a cool moment.
That is
for
very
the company.
cool.
So,
well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So that's kind of our backflow preventer side, but you're a hydronics guy. Let's go talk about some of the hydronics.
Yeah, let's do
on
it.
The side of the booth.
Let's do it.
So, and then we've been doing more education in the booth too, which is something that has been fun for us to have classes that are actually right next to the products instead of doing a classroom or something like that.
Well, as you know, I'm very passionate about training.
And you're a very hands-on guy.
And I'm a hands-on guy like you. We both came from the field.
So we kind of changed the booth to be very hands-on, that the customers can come see cutaway of the product. So we had a bunch of engineers walking around yesterday, and they walked up and they're like, oh, everybody come look at this. This is what a check valve looks like on the inside.
Yeah.
We have these on our plans, but no one's ever seen inside of a check valve. So these are some of our hydronics products, air and dirt separators, SEP4.
It's a really nice illustration. I like that you can see, even in the separator and in the air elimination device, you can see the coalescing media, you can see the float. That cutaway really helps people get a good understanding of what it looks like inside. Even as an installer, before I met you guys in the Caleffi team many, many years ago, I had no idea how they worked on the inside. It's really cool.
I mean, sometimes we'll have people come up and say, oh yeah, these, I've had one of those that leaks before, and we can actually like kind of get in there and say, okay, here's what to look for.
Yeah.
You want to have a little pocket of air right here. You're probably going to have a little piece of Teflon tape in that needle.
Yep.
That's what's going to cause it to leak. So here's how you can take it apart. Here's how you can service it and keep it in good working order, which is what everybody wants.
Yeah.
Because it's usually not that the product is broken as much as it maybe was misapplied, maybe misunderstood, and that's what we like to help with from the education side.
What do you find when you're talking about air separators? What do you find are some of the most common things that people misapply? I'll tell you one that I see a lot.
You start. Yeah.
So the most common, and honestly it got me too, is there's this misconception that air elimination happens at the highest point.
Yeah.
It happens at the hottest point. And what are some of the things you see?
That's a great point, because these valves right here, these air vents, will do a great job of the highest point.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the three categories of air we're trying to get rid of. So if air is going to settle at a high point, those are a great spot to go. But generally, air is moving at the speed of the system fluid.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is we want to catch it while it's moving, and that's what a coalescing media does. So we've got these sharp edges on the coalescing means to gather. So it's going to gather the little micro bubbles that just look like milky water, and then they'll float up to the vent. So it kind of stops the air and throws it up to the air vent, which is what we're trying to do. And then to your point, we want to put this in the hottest point of the system at the lowest pressure. So that's going to be before a circulator, coming right out of the boiler. Yeah. That's where we're going to get gas to separate from the fluid. That's where the solubility is lowest. The placement of this is super important to make sure that you get all the air out of the system. So,
well, we've done a lot of training together, so you know this saying, but one of the ways I found really easy to relate to is boiling water, right? If we're boiling pasta, you put that pot on, the water looks great, as soon as you start boiling it, all the air comes out of it. Well, it's the same thing with our hydronic systems. Really important to use that media. How about with dirt separators? My favorite is people that don't want to use magnetic dirt separators. I always like to make the joke in the takeover, the Grundfos booth, you guys now have the dirt separator. It's your magnetic ECM pump.
There's another magnet now. We just have to make sure that we're not clogging up the expensive one. So this magnet is supposed to catch all the debris and then comes right out. So this dry well right here is where we want to catch the magnetic garbage. And one of the tests that you can do to see if you have an ongoing problem is then you turn the circulator off, you pull this out, you pull this band off of the bell of the separator, you blow it down into a bucket, and then you take this magnet and you kind of go around the bottom of a white bucket. You see how much of that debris is following the magnet, like an Etch-a-Sketch or something like that. Then you might be able to figure out from there, oh, I have an underlying air problem. This shouldn't be continuing to rust. I should have kind of a dead sea of fluid inside of this hydronic system. That's ideal. If you see that you're getting like a big gob of magnetite every week, there's probably an air issue that needs to be addressed first, and maybe it's a leak. And I know that's something that you guys talk about a lot too, is that we don't want to fill this boiler forever with a bunch of sediment and fresh oxygen, because it's going to make everything that we're working on worse.
Yeah, so. I am not a fan of autofills. I think we've had that conversation, because I'm filling that system with water. The water where we are in Ontario, it's 800 parts per million. So if you look at that, you're about 600 parts per million outside of your warranty. The reality is we want a closed system, we want the air out of it, and we want to make sure you're using dirt elimination, proper air elimination. If you're not using one of these products, at the end of the day, that air is a scavenger. Yeah. So you may have gotten some of the minerals out, but that air is going to attack the system, and that's not what these are designed for. We need to be looking at this end of your placard for materials.
And you shouldn't use an expansion tank like a sacrificial anode. Your expansion tank shouldn't be something that you're running through every 6 months, because it's an unaddressed air issue, and we don't want that to be the case. We want to set up all the other components, the more expensive stuff, the boilers and the heat pumps and the circulators, to last a long time. Yeah. That's kind of the goal for the industry, is to make sure that we have the peak performance technology, but also it's reliable, because if we get a bad name for high efficiency, then the industry's in bad shape, and really kind of the energy efficiency world is in bad shape. Yeah. If people don't believe that the best of the best is actually as reliable as the cast iron boiler from a long time ago, then we missed something. And it's partially training, it's partially marketing, but education is key, and you guys do a great job with that.
I think one of the things that's really key is I will see people say, I don't want to put a dirt separator on, I want to save that money, right? Yeah. Well, let's say a dirt separator, it's not, but let's say it's $500. Let's inflate the number to a number where you and I are like, what's going on here? The reality is the loss in fuel savings by coating the heat exchanger, as soon as we fire that up at 1 part per million of scale, less than the thickness of a dime, 10% of my fuel efficiency gone.
And
why did I buy a condensing boiler?
Yeah, and let's say that you have one ECM pump that goes down, so you replace that ECM pump once. So not only are you replacing the component that is going to go to the landfill or scrapyard early, which we don't like, but also that's a day that system was down. So that's a day that your customer's unhappy. You have to rush that from the wholesaler, or, whatever. It's an inconvenience that we can prevent, and that's what the air and dirt separation is for, is really to maintain comfort and high efficiency, like you're saying. So.
You never save money when you do it twice, much less when you do it 3 times, and unfortunately, you and I have seen that many times.
Yeah, and it's not a fun conversation at the wholesaler level or at the manufacturing level to be like, listen, this water was terrible, and this component is not going to work anymore, and it's not under warranty. So good luck with that. It's just it's not setting anybody up for success. It's a bad day throughout the supply chain and for the end user, and we want to stay ahead of that. So that's what we're up to here.
Well, I think that Caleffi as a brand is fortunate to have you, and obviously to have Bob as well. Caleffi has established himself as an industry leader, and I say that with sincerity. We're friends, so you know it's sincere. You're one of those companies that Eden Energy, the company I work for, tries to align with, because we think alike. We like to do training, we like to collaborate, and we like to help contractors and engineers solve problems. And that's what you and I get paid to do, and it's a lot of fun.
It's more fun, yeah.
Exactly. We both went there.
Yeah, I think that the commodity sales is not what either of us are out here to do, and I think that it I'm glad that some people do that, and there's a place for it, and it's good to have the products that you sell 1 billion of and nobody knows how they work, but we like to focus on setting the contractor up for success with the most energy efficient option that they have, and being adaptable to whatever that is. So it may be a heat pump, it may be an electric boiler, it may be biomass. It depends on your region. If you're in a region with a lot of cheap hydro, then it's probably a different scenario than rural Wisconsin or whatever. So we want to make sure that we know what the next system is around the corner and how we have to adapt to that product-wise or training-wise to make sure that not just the bread and butter system is something we understand, but we can help people in whatever walk of their career they're in.
Yeah, well, I think
the best version.
By doing the training, we can help educate, because at the end of the day, when I was still in the field on tools, and you were the same, you were in the field at a time too, we don't know, we don't know. Our job is not to preach and sort of knock people over the head. It's to share knowledge that we've gained, because we're not on tools. We're at desks. We're trainers now. So educating the community, and speaking of educating, you and I are planning some training. We're going to do something in the coming month, and I believe Bob Rohr is coming into Ontario. You want to just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we did a series, the 3 degrees of hydronics. That was really fun. So we talked about a few different approaches to systems. So what was the baseline, what is today, what is tomorrow, kind of a topic. So I'm excited to continue that conversation, because that's not over. There's still a lot more to talk about there. And then, we've started to ramp up the field training more, so we're getting back on the road a little bit more that we haven't in the past, a couple of years with COVID. And then we still do a lot of hybrid stuff too, and I know that that's something that you guys
you know how passionate I am about hybrid.
Sometimes if you have somebody there with the samples that you can hold and look and feel at, but then I can call in with 48 hours notice from my house in Salt Lake City. We know that that's where the engineers are now. Sometimes that I've been on some trips since COVID where I've flown to a city to meet with the engineering firm, and they're like, oh yeah, only 3 of us work here. Everybody else is working from home. So that's we have to adapt our training style to that instead of demanding that the engineers come into the office today. We have to meet them where they're at. So
we had the same problem. I'm a hands-on trainer, and we had to do the virtual training. But to your point, the 3 degrees of hydronic design that we did together, that was a great training to sort of spell it out. It was you, me, and Bob. So we had 3 different perspectives, and we did 3 different systems. I loved it. Bob's coming to Ontario, so we'll have him out to our facility, and hopefully we can do it rather than you and Bob sitting together. Me and Bob will sit together, and you can virtual in.
Chair arrangement.
It'll be fun.
That one,
We'll have a lot of fun, and I know the last one was well received. Everybody can check it on our YouTube channel. You guys have a YouTube channel.
We do, We've got 13 years of Coffee with Caleffi up now. So that's been helpful, and we find that only 5% of our views are live. So most of them are in the archive, and people will go back and say, okay, I'm going to do a system that's kind of like that. What were they talking about with that? Which is why you have the YouTube channel. So,
for sure. Well, I appreciate seeing you again. Thank you for the time. Can't wait to work with you in the
future. Have a great show, and thank you.
Appreciate it.